What's good, y'all? Stuart B for Venom Sports, and you know we spit that fire. All right, so with the SEC still prevalent this coming weekend, what's going on? Y'all see the background, War Eagle, baby, but it's SEC football that we're talking about. But right now, I'm going to be talking about the Auburn Tigers versus Arkansas. All right, so here's the situation. Arkansas is not playing very well, guys. We not they don't have McFadden and Felix Jones and all those guys that they've had traditionally. These guys in a real rebuilding kind of stage, and they're catching Auburn. You know what I'm saying? I don't think they'll beat Auburn. Just being honest with you. And I'm not just saying that as an overzealous Auburn fan. I just don't think they'll beat Auburn. They just don't have the guys. I mean, he's losing to North Texas, and as a matter of fact, the score was 44-17. They scored the 17 points with minutes left, and I don't even think North Texas was paying attention. That just goes to show how debilitating this Arkansas team is. Now, when we look at this, the team that has the most to gain obviously is the Auburn Tigers. Auburn Tigers coming off a 22-21, very disappointing loss to LSU. Just didn't take advantage of the opportunities, costly penalties. Pass interference, holding calls at really pivotal times that really started to be telling in that game against LSU. Probably one of those games that they, would like to have back. In the midst of losing a few players, they lost Nate Craig Myers, who decided to transfer, probably because of lack of playing time. He wasn't getting the touches that he felt like he wanted to get in. And I wish the kid much success. But when you have a guy, that feels like he wants to get the touches and he's not getting them, of course that causes somewhat of a cancer on the team. And with Will Hastings and Eli Stove coming back, Nate Craig Myers probably felt like, hey, it's a wrap here for me. I'm not going to get the touches. I'm not their guy. But moving forward to the Arkansas game, Auburn, is at that crossroad now. Kind of like they were last year after they lose to LSU, kind of a where do we go from here type situation. And what I feel is, I think Auburn has an incredible upside. If you look at the games between now and when they play Georgia, a very manageable schedule, starting with Arkansas. Now, what do the Tigers need to accomplish in this particular game? Obviously, I think they accomplished the win. That's the simple goal. You know what I'm saying? They'll accomplish the win. But how will they get to the win? Number one, you got to stop the turnovers. You know what I'm saying? If Auburn is going to be successful, Jarrett Stidham cannot turn the ball over. In all the games that they've lost in the past, Jarrett Stidham was responsible. You know what I'm saying? And when I look at the ratio of game, when I look at the result for Auburn, this is what tends to happen. Auburn usually has over 400 yards. They usually control the time of possession, and they usually control the turnover margin. I don't think any of that will be a factor in this game. I think Auburn wins the game either way. However, if they're going to, make a statement and start to solidify themselves as a good team in the SEC West that has a chance to contend with Alabama, this is the game where they start to kind of shore things up. Because right now, Auburn is just not a solid team. Incredible win over Washington. You know what I'm saying? They pretty much, they did the things that you have to do, what Auburn tends to have to do to win the game. 428 total yards, control the time of possession, 31.08 minutes, and they forced 2 turnovers. But when Auburn loses, they lose the turnover battle. They don't control the time of possession, and the total yards is kind of malignant. So what do we need from Auburn this week? First of all, we need them to establish the identity of the offensive line. First of all, the line of scrimmage in the SEC West, the line of scrimmage is going to determine where you go, how far you go in the SEC West, right? So this week, they have to solidify that. They have to determine who is going to be that solid offensive line. And number two, Jarrett Stidham, highly touted quarterback. Some would like to believe that he could be a Heisman Trophy candidate. He has to solidify that posture in this particular game. Because after Southern Miss, it gets really real after that. You know what I'm saying? Season-wise. So Jarrett Stidham has to solidify himself in that regard. And then Auburn really has to figure out who the two guys are going to be at the running game. I don't feel like Auburn has the luxury of having one guy that's going to be able to run 30 plus times per game like Kerryon Johnson did, like Cameron Petway did in the past, Barber from 2016. They don't have that luxury. They're going to have a two-back system. And right now what it seems like Auburn is leaning towards Sean Shivers and Jartavius Booby Whitlow out of Lafayette, Alabama, baby. You know what I'm saying? That's what they want to roll with. And I'm going to tell you another thing. You got to get rid of the bubble screen. I hate it. Even when it works, I hate it. Stop doing the bubble screen. Matter of fact, I want to see you fake the bubble screen and then throw downfield, right? That's another thing that leads to my next point. Auburn is going to have to throw the ball downfield. They had a lot of success with that in the Washington game, and I just don't understand why they deterred from that. You know what I'm saying? The quick slants, the balls down the field, straight down the field. Do that. You know what I'm saying? I understand Gus Malzahn wants to run the ball first, but right now I think, in that Washington game, they used the passing game to get to the running game, to open up the running game for themselves. So here we are. All right, Auburn, Alabama. You know what I'm saying? The second SEC game in a row for Auburn in Auburn. Crowd is going to be, electrifying as usual. I think Auburn has to start to find their identity, to see where they're going to go in the SEC West. And this is the game that they do it. This is the game that they have to do it because they're running out of time to actually have that, that solidification going into the meat of SEC West play. So here's how I think this game is going to go turn out. I really believe Auburn has to shore up the lack of penalties. They have to be more disciplined, kind of like they have been in the past. Auburn typically is not a penalized team, but that has been their MO so far this season. Costly penalties they very untimely penalties. That last drive against LSU, 2 pass interference penalties, giving them 30 yards, putting them in position to kick that game-winning field goal. That probably won't happen against Arkansas, but these are the games where you have to right those wrongs. You have to go ahead and shore things up. You got, Arkansas, then you got Southern Miss, then you got Mississippi State. I like Mississippi State. You know what I'm saying? I think Mississippi State is that dark horse team in the SEC West. They have the physicality. They have this strong physical running back. They have a pretty decent quarterback. They are one of those teams that's going to make some noise, in the SEC West. And Auburn has to get prepared for that because they got to go to, Starkville to play Mississippi State, right? So, like I said before, the things you have to shore up. The line of scrimmage. I think in the SEC West, the line of scrimmage is so important. You have to shore that up. I think the defensive line for Auburn is solid. I think the linebacker play is solid. I think at the cornerback position, the secondary, they have to get their reads right. They have to turn around and find the football. There's no mistake that they've had all of these pass interference calls because they're not finding the football. They're in position. They're just not finding the football. So this is the game where they have to shore some of these things up because they got 2 games before they face Mississippi State in a very hostile environment. I think Mississippi State is going to beat Kentucky, and I think this is going to be a showdown. It's going to be a showdown in Starkville, and Auburn has to do the necessary preparations to put themselves in position to respond to that showdown because those guys are going to be ready. All right, so Jarrett Stidham has to solidify his place as the leader of this team. Forget all the Heisman hype, forget all that other stuff coming into the season. You're a good quarterback, but you have to produce. All right. So here's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at Auburn 40-13, somewhere along there. I think that, this is a game that won't be particularly close, but I really think Auburn has to answer a lot of those questions in this game if they're going to be a strong contender in the SEC West and challenge teams like Mississippi State and Georgia, Texas A&M down the stretch, and Alabama if they're going to make that same run that they did last year. And looking at the schedule, it's very manageable for Auburn to be 8-1 going into the Georgia game. But they're going to have to get some solidification together very quick in order for that to happen. So what I'm looking at, 45-13 against Arkansas. Not going to be a very competitive game. Arkansas is malignant at best. Not much to see here, but this continues to show how you have to progress from week to week to week in order to compete in the SEC West and in the SEC in general. All right, y'all. War Eagle, you know what I'm saying? SEC football. It just means more. You know what I'm saying? Once again, my name is Stuart V for Venom Sports, and you know we spit that fire. Great games coming on tomorrow. Next up, Texas A&M and Alabama.